Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to begin quite the task because we're going to begin checking out more of these fierce changers. Yes, I don't seem to ever learn my lesson. I did go ahead and acquire all of the new fierce changers again, or at least as far as this sort of double danger version goes. And I figured some people do like them, so I'm going to put reviews up for them. Other people not so much, but they do actually have some pretty cool species this time around that I am excited about. I did actually consider just throwing them all up in one review because they're not the most popular thing in the world, but there would just be so much to go through. I feel like that review would just drag on forever. So we're just going to go ahead and do each one individually because why not? But you can see this time we have the Indominus and Kentrosaurus. So pretty interesting species choices. I am pretty excited to see the Indominus Rex enter this line because previously we only had an Indominus in the Fierce Changers for the hidden hatchers, which are the smaller figures. So it is nice to have one in this line, even if he's probably not going to be the greatest figure ever. The Kentrosaurus is an interesting choice, but it's only I guess it would be the third time we've seen the Kentrosaurus in the Mattel line because we had the mainline version as well as the mini, and now we have this version. So interesting to see that one return. Unfortunately, they don't have like a shoulder spike or anything on them, which I don't know how they would do that in this type of figure. It is still cool to have the Kentrosaurus regardless. As far as the back of the packaging goes, you can see we've got an image here showing off the transformation, but we also have an image over here showing off some of the other figures that are in this wave of these Fierce Changers, one of which is the Allosaurus and Dimetrodon, which I think is a really cool one. The Ceratosaurus and Bumpy the Ankylosaurus, which is pretty interesting as well. And there's also a Carnotaurus version too, like a repainted Carnotaurus version, which doesn't seem to get any sort of mention on the back of the packaging here. Regardless, I'm going to go ahead and pop this open and we'll check it out. So here is our figure now out of the packaging, and we can get a better view of it, a better look at what it looks like. And I mean, it definitely, at least as far as the head sculpt goes, kind of has the look and appearance of the Indominus Rex. But the thing, and I know these are made for kids, so 100% I understand the appeal in them. Obviously, they must be at least selling kind of okay, or Mattel wouldn't have put into production a new wave of these. And I can absolutely see kids enjoying them. Me personally, when I was a kid, I probably would have liked them because it's pretty neat to have two different dinosaurs in one figure and you can transform them. Kids usually like things that transform, so I absolutely see why they make them. But again, looking at this through the eyes of an adult collector, they're not the most appealing thing in the world. And one of the biggest things that is a problem for me is that when you turn the dinosaur over, we obviously have the parts of the other dinosaur sticking out here of the underside of our Indominus Rex. So now it looks like, oh, actually, I guess we do have the shoulder spikes. I did not see that on the packaging. But now it looks like we have just like the most awkward looking random stegosaur type plates sticking out of the underbelly of our Indominus. But regardless, again, we know from the first round that these are certainly not perfection, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Indominus Rex, you can see we've got some really quite nice looking scale detail here in the face, definitely reminiscent to the Indominus from the film, of course. You can see we've got the light gray for the primary body. We do have a darker gray there in the palate and a darker gray that kind of borders around the eye. We have an orange eye with a black pupil, and you can see that we've got those kind of scoots moving up and over the top of the head, and then we also have some quills here in the back of the neck as you move along. You do have all of those scoots that move through the course of the body of the Indominus. You also see that we've got a darker gray that shows up here moving along the back, maybe even more of like a brown actually. Moving along the back of our Indominus, again, we have all of those ridges and everything here moving along the back as well as we lead out into the very short tail. You can see again we return basically to just that light gray coloration for the arms. Unfortunately, we have the coloration here for the Kentrosaurus, so that kind of ruins the effect of it being an Indominus Rex. There is a speckling, but what's weird is you can see the speckling on the Kentrosaurus, but not the speckling on the Indominus version. So the speckling does only show up in the arms, in quotation marks, of our Indominus Rex, which isn't really the greatest thing in the world. I will say that it at least, like, they kind of made it look where the feet are kind of fingers if you look at them from the front, so it almost is like not the weirdest looking thing in the world, but then when you turn it to the side, it is absolutely one of the weirdest looking things in the world. But as you turn the Indominus over, obviously we now have the entire underside sporting the upper side of the Kentrosaurus here, so that's not really so great. And overall, again, it also looks weird because when you have the toes popped out for the Indominus, you look on the back, you have the toes for the Kentrosaurus, so it's like a dinosaur with toes on both sides of its feet. Doesn't know which direction, I guess, it's going to walk. We do have an articulated jaw, I think, if we can get it open. There we go. We've got a tongue sculpted out there on the inside of the mouth, painted with a nice pinkish tone, but there is no other coloration on the inside of the mouth outside of that. The teeth are painted with sort of like a nice white tone or like a light grayish tone, and they look okay, though there aren't too many teeth on the inside of the mouth of this version of the Indominus. Articulation-wise, of course, you can move the, again in quotation marks, arms, but only forward and back, and you do have the ability to move them all throughout. You can see we've got the joint here, a joint here, and a joint here. So you can move all of those sections. Same deal for the hip back here. Again, you can move, as well as the knee above and below the knee for the Indominus. And then, of course, you can also move the toes as well, because that's how you have to push them into, articulate it back, or transform it, I should say, back into the Kentrosaurus. We can kind of move the neck as well a little bit, but that's because we have to move the neck to transform the dinosaur into the Kentrosaurus version. But overall, it looks just as awkward as it ever has, maybe even more awkward with these plates and everything on the underside of the Indominus. But again, like I said, I can understand why kids would find an appeal in these. And for some reason, there we go. That really did not want to pop open. So to transform our Indominus, we're just going to put all the limbs straight out, and then we'll start to transform it here and move things around. We've got to get this head in and the other head up. Oh, I think I might have went the wrong way. I think we got to bring that tail up first. Yes, that definitely looks better to me. Maybe. Nope. Am I wrong? I'm wrong. The head's not going in. So this is always the trickiest part, is figuring out how to assemble the dinosaur in a way where it's going to fit. So there we go. All right, we got it that time. So once you actually turn the body around, you can now see we have the more Kentrosaurus sort of look. You then want to go ahead and reposition the legs so it has more of that Kentrosaurus kind of look to it. And then obviously we're going to take these toes, we put them underneath. I think we've got it. I think that's about the best we're going to get. So now, when it comes to the Kentrosaurus version, you can see that the head sculpt actually looks, again, pretty okay as far as the fine detail goes, and the general appearance, I think, looks pretty decent. You can see the skin texture looks nice. You've got the detailing there of the beak. The beak does have a little bit of a satin shine to it. We also have the nostrils sculpted out there. You can see a bit of a larger scaling moving over the top of the head. You can absolutely see that that speckling is present all throughout the course of the head of the Kentrosaurus version. As you move along, you do have that brownish tone for the upper side of the dinosaur. You also have a much darker brown that follows along the back as well as the plates, clearly showing that this is a separate piece of material that is applied so that we can have that look rather than painting the plates out individually. The shoulder spikes, which are clearly way higher than they should be, are here. They are present, which I didn't think they were at first, but obviously they're moved up here, deforming the dinosaur completely so that we can, in fact, include those, because if they were down here, I don't think you'd be able to transform it or anything. And then as you move out into the tail, you can see, again, the tail is a different tone of color. We have this lighter tone, the same color that you see for the leg. You see it kind of follow along that light brown, even in the neck region right there. actually runs to the underside of the neck as well. And then it runs out here onto the tail, and the tail, of course, is nice and short, as the Fierce Changers' tails always are. Outside of that, we've already technically seen the legs and everything. They're no different when it comes to, switching it around for the Kentrosaurus version than what we had seen on the Indominus version. I will say the Kentrosaurus version does look a little bit better, I think, than... I think I got to work on that leg there in a minute. But then I think it did for the Indominus, because it looks a little less awkward. Even though we do have these ridges and stuff moving along the underside, they're not quite as obvious as the plates were when it was in the Indominus position. But still, again, if you're into these, it's another cool release. If you're not into these, I can easily see why you might hate it. I don't think that we really need sizes or anything for the figures, especially because, again, it is the same size range that we've had before, and we've already reviewed probably 4 of these figures in the past, which they are all the same basic size range, and that I think should be pretty obvious. If you have purchased any of them previously, you'll definitely know, again, that they are all the same size basically. There are a few different size ranges though, because here is the largest. Well, technically this isn't the largest. The largest would be the T-Rex. But this is the second largest size range. So there are basically actually 4 different size ranges then. You have the large one, which is the T-Rex and the Jeep. Then you've got this size range, which I honestly feel like should have been where the Indominus was placed, not in the smaller size range. We have, another Alpha Predator here with the Giganotosaurus, but we have the Indominus in the smaller one. But then you have the smaller size range, and then you've got the Hidden Hatchers, which are the tiny little egg versions. So if you are familiar with this size range of these figures, then you will definitely have a pretty good idea, I think, of the size of the newest wave of these Fierce Changers. So this brand new Fierce Changers Indominus Rex / Kentrosaurus is just the same as all the others. Again, it's something that I feel like you're either going to really, really like if you're into Transformers and stuff like that, or you're really going to hate if you're into just more regular looking dinosaurs. There's not much in the way of an in-between, although I do kind of sit in an in-between stance because I do like exaggerated dinosaur toys and stuff, and I do like things that are different. These are absolutely both of that. They're definitely different. They are definitely exaggerated, but they still end up looking really ugly. Though they are, something that, like I said earlier, are made for kids. Kids are probably going to really like them, so I fully understand why they are made, why they are being released, and the fact that these are not targeted at my age range. They're not targeted really for adult collectors, whereas a lot of the Mattel line definitely is kind of targeted at adult collectors and kids. These are definitively, I would say, for kids, but there is still some enjoyment you can take from them because, again, it is still Mattel. It is still a Jurassic World toy. And they do give you some pretty cool species, like, again, we have an Indominus here, as well as a Kentrosaurus, and it's nice to see the Kentrosaurus return back. We've had the Indominus a ton of times, but the Kentrosaurus not so much, so it is cool to see it get a little more love. That being said, though, this is probably one of my least favorites overall, just because of the fact that the plates are very ugly looking once it's in the Indominus position, and even when it's in the Kentrosaurus position, the scoots and everything on the underside then look awkward for the Kentrosaurus. So overall, there doesn't seem to be much of a win either way. A lot of the time you'll look at them and you'll be like, well, it looks okay in like the Ankylosaurus position because it's quadrupedal or something, whereas it kind of looks awkward both ways when it comes to this one. Though the figure does seem to work just fine, works exactly as it's meant to, and transforms pretty easily, and I guess does exactly what it is supposed to do. So if you are interested in grabbing one of these for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it on Amazon.com and get this into your collection as well. So make sure you check that link, grab it if you want it, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.